Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Director Watch, an AwardsWatch podcast that attempts to get inside the mind of cinema's greatest auteurs, explore what drives them, and maybe we go on a few unrelated tangents along the way. I'm Ryan McQuade, the executive editor here at AwardsWatch, and joining me, as always, is my distant but very close friend and co-host, Jay Ledbetter.
And today, we all get to explore our own sense of purpose by taking a trip across the Pacific Ocean. We're going to Tokyo. Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation. Can't wait to talk about this one. This is
the big one, right?
Sofia Coppola's biggest movie.
Yeah, I would say.
Like her most culturally, this is her touchstone picture.
Yeah.
Not touchstone pictures, but this is her touchstone picture.
No, we're not. No, not touchstone pictures. I think that's maybe a different, maybe favorite touchstone picture movies one day.
Oh, that'd be a good series. Touchstone.
Touchstone.
Just completely break the format. Directors out the door. We just do studios.
Listen, before we get our guest in here, I just got to say, Joe,
Ryan's been talking about doing a Miramax series for so long.
No. Yeah, let's just talk about the awards campaigns. No, I think that maybe one day we would do like genre or a specific, style, like an A24 series or something
like a bunch of films by directors we would never cover in their entirety. But it's like we need to talk about this movie.
Maybe one hit wonders, or best, had a first
fun,
best directorial debuts that added to nothing. That could be something. These are ideas that all of our listeners could probably send us to.
Love planning on the show.
Yeah, we love doing
our
meetings here live for all you to listen to. But we couldn't do a Lost in Translation episode alone, Jay. I think that would be irresponsible of us to do this movie that's so big alone. So we have brought on first-time guest, but not a first-time guest to any AwardsWatch listeners out there. If you know, you'll know this voice because me and Eric and Sophia and Tyler Doster, we've all been on her show multiple times. She's been on the AwardsWatch podcast a couple of times too. And her wonderful show, Pop Culture Confidential, which is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. She's a wonderful journalist. Christina Jeurling Birro is with us here tonight. Christina, how are you doing? And welcome to Director Watch.
Thank you so much. I'm just marinating in all your ideas that you have going forward here and just contemplating. Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk about
You listen to the show. What would you like us to do, Christina?
Oh, I think anything related to like a first directorial debut that goes nowhere, I think sounds fabulous.
Yeah. Or a movie about like director jail, like movies that put people in a director jail. Like that would be interesting.
One hit wonders would be
like you slice out and
then it finally gives me a chance to talk about Night of the Hunter.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, you're going to be talking about it in a couple of weeks or in a couple of years, I guess. When
the remake?
Thank
God, we're finally remaking the Night of the Hunter.
I was sitting there the other night. I turned recently and just put it behind the curtains here. We're recording the day after my birthday, and I was sitting there. And I was just wishing, I was wanting a remake, very horror slanted by Scott Derrickson, our favorite auteur, to a movie that's a masterpiece and just so necessary to remake it. You know what I mean? I'm absolutely kidding. I don't want that movie to be made.
The kids have been clamoring for a Night of the Hunter remake for so long.
Imagine, if you got like Austin Butler in there or Chalamet, you know what I mean? Maybe it'll make a bunch of money. Who knows?
Look, Chalamet made it work with Wonka. Finally figured out why that guy loves chocolate so much.
He's putting it in his pocket. Yeah, he's got that chocolate.
Well, there's chocolate and there's chocolate.
Yeah,
which is what we learned in that.
Yeah, no. There's chocolate and then there's chocolate. You gotta really just stretch it out. Like taffy. You know what I mean?
You're right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Christina, did you like Wonka?
Well, I kind of had to because I have an 8-year-old who really did.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to enjoy anything that your kids love. Like it could be like
this is the Stockholm syndrome of parenthood.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is like is the stuff that kids like that is helping like that the parents watch, is it actually good? You know what I mean?
I feel like I don't like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. But I watch a lot of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
I don't know. Jay was talking to me about that. Maybe that's a miniseries we do down the road. Anyway, all jokes aside, all tangents aside, we're here with a real guest, Jay, a very serious journalist. We have to.
What is she doing? Stooping down to
what are you
this level?
doing here, Christina? You're with us, jokers here tonight. Christina, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions before we get into Lost in Translation, because you are one of the few journalists that got to actually talk to Sofia Coppola last year when she was on the press tour for Priscilla. And so I know how much of a fan you are of that film, and it was a great conversation that you had with her, great 30-minute conversation you have with her. I am curious for you how big of a fan of her other works outside of Lost in Translation you are, and what makes her such a special director for you. And as you've gone back and looked, for your all your research and everything to talk to her.
Right. Well, I should probably preface this, Jay, by saying that when I do shows like this with Ryan, I tend to go very personal. We did a big show on Spielberg's divorce themes, Banshees of Inisherin. There's always a little tear in our eye when we're doing this. So this may go a little personal, but my relationship to Sofia Coppola is very much related to her themes. I will get back to talking about her as a filmmaker, where I think she's great as well, but we're roughly the same age. And it's mainly her depictions of loneliness, specifically young girls going through some sort of trajectory, or young women in the midst of being of loneliness. It's already resonated. Now, of course, I didn't hang out with my dad, Francis, fighting his demons in the Philippines, but I do have a background that she was talking to me about him, and that she describes as sort of being an army brat, moving around a lot of different cultures, which I did as well. And I think that makes you somewhat of an observer. I can really relate to that she tends to really bring out in her movies. I can relate to the loneliness in a big city, which I think is the best type. If you're going to be lonely, for me, that's the best place to be. If I would be lonely in a rural place, I'd probably die.
Not by the countryside.
No, not for me.
You want to be lonely surrounded by a bunch of people who are having fun.
Exactly. And I'm used to that. And I think she does that really well. And then it's just her needle drops and things like that she uses basically can be like a punch in the gut for me. I'm transported to myself in when Jesus and Mary Chain comes on, or the Cure's Plain Song. I mean, these are my songs. This is some transition in my life, if a breakup, or I'm there with a cigarette in my mouth some evening walking home, and it's just, she seems to have something in her films that I really can resonate to. But the brilliance you're asking me about, which looking back when I really did research about her, is when I watch her films again when I'm older, I realize how mature she is in the perspective, because you can watch these movies both at the same age that she's making them, and then when you're older and you get a completely different perspective. Or now you're looking at Bill Murray's marriage in Lost in Translation and thinking, wow, what's going on there, in a completely different way. And this is something I talked to her about, how interesting it was for her to do Priscilla, another movie about a young woman in a lonely young woman in a huge transition, but as a mother of two teens. And how she sees those parents Priscilla's parents, as opposed to the parents in Virgin Suicide, and things like that, which I think that she has a really powerful perspective, even as when you look back at them as when you're older. And then, of course, visually, I mean, we'll get into that, but like Lance Alcott is the MVP of Lost in Translation, if you ask me how beautiful they are. And but I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But that's a little bit about sort of my personal view on her films.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, last week when we talked about the Virgin Suicides, it's such, like you're mentioning, you can be a casual observer of your father, of your greatness, but to have as confident of a debut as probably ever made,
incredible.
It's incredible, and it shows a true visionary under there. And she's very different from her father, and
it's also a hurdle to be considered great with Francis Ford Coppola being your dad. Like, there's pressure to that.
I mean,
if you come out and make a mediocre first film,
yeah,
They dismiss you as, oh, I mean, she only got to make that movie because she's Francis Ford Coppola's daughter.
You're just
Instead, she
branding.
made
You're just
a
branding Cronenberg at that point.
fantastic film. Hey-o.
Man.
Brandon Cronenberg's okay. Come
Yeah,
on.
he's trying too hard to be his dad. He should just,
That's true. I mean, that's kind of the problem with Brandon Cronenberg is he's making David Cronenberg movies, just not as good.
Yeah.
Which she is not. I
But
mean,
she's
that's
doing her
the
own
interesting.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so interesting because I think that whole thing about all the shit and vitriol she had to take after acting in Godfather 3, in a way, I think it kind of released her from like, this is not me. I'm my own person. This is what I want to, this is where I want my lens to be pointed, in a way that I think is, she just started making her own visions and her own things.
She got to reinvent herself because really, for the most part,
I mean, she definitely had access to resources that
Yeah,
other people
I
might
mean,
not have had. But
Yeah.
yes.
true,
I mean,
true,
sure.
but like I'd equate it to the pressures of like, Michael Jordan's kids went and played basketball, but they were highly touted, because they were like, oh, that's the son of Michael Jordan, or oh my God, and they didn't end up being as great as their dad. You know what I mean? And they
I don't think anybody is mad about Sofia getting her shot.
no, but like they have an abundance of resources.
In
They
hindsight,
have a
anyway.
very those athletes like you look at like LeBron James's kids. They're supposedly pretty good, not bad, whatever however you want to look at it. But they're never going to be an all-time great, probably like their dad. And they have an abundance of resources. They have millions of dollars and everything and NIL.
They do, and because his son is just okay in college, he gets so much hate.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which Sophia has certainly gotten her
She got so
fair
much.
share of hate.
She's gotten her share.
Oh,
but
yeah,
they have to step back and realize is that like I create my own. I'm going to go down the path. How do I create something that sounds more like me rather than like, creating something that is very much in the voice of my father. And I'm going to use him for his connections or resources and everything. But then when you make the film and it turns out to be as good as Virgin Suicides, you get then to be like, okay, this is not a fluke. This is somebody, for real. And then she gets to make a movie like this. And
if she decided to go by a pseudonym, she would probably be just as successful as she
exactly. Yeah. But, she, with this movie, takes another step forward. This is a ginormous movie for her in her career.
It's a big old honking movie.
It's a big old honking movie. It's 20 years old now. I mean, it's a movie that was made for $4 million and it made $120 million. That's incredible. And it's now sustained as one of the best films of the last 25 years. And which I think
there have been
great.
so many books written on this thing. It is one of the most critically evaluated movies of the 21st century. It's fascinating.
It really is. It really is. And it's the biggest movie. I mean, 2 films in, and we're already talking about the biggest film in her career. So, Christina, I'm curious for you. You rewatched the film, obviously, for the show and everything. What are your thoughts on Lost in Translation?
Well, again, this is what I'm saying, that it's so interesting to look back at it now and sort of see the perspective of both marriages in a way that maybe I didn't the first time around. I mean, I've seen it subsequently after the first time, but I also think it's just one of the most beautiful movies. As I was saying, Lance Alcott, the cinematographer, and looking at how it was made, basically kamikaze style, out in the streets without permits. I cannot believe that they got the gorgeous visuals that they did of Tokyo, filming it that way that they did. And I think that every shot of every face in every looking out the car windows up into Tokyo, looking, it's just a masterpiece in visuals. So, and the whole scene where they're running around the karaoke party scene around Tokyo, which was basically just them running around with cameras behind, is just so beautiful. And I also think thematically, the fact that you can meet someone in your life in an intersection of pain that's going through another intersection of pain, and you just meet them in that moment, is something that has happened to me. And I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful moment that you'll remember for the rest of your life, even if you never meet that person again. So this is definitely one of my favorites. It has a few issues here and there, but for me, it's the big one.
Yeah. Jay?
And can I just say how
Yeah.
funny it is? I mean, the Sausalito bar, the singers in the
Yeah.
bar, the whole Simon and Garfunkel, every
Oh my
time I
God.
just fall down laughing. It's so funny. And every Bill Murray's improvisation. And I think people forget after a while how funny this movie is. You think of it as sort of these two people meeting in the moment in their pain, but it really is funny. And I'm sure we're going to get into the disdain that she feels for supposedly Charlize, what's her name? Spike Jones and
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna talk about. Well, we'll
yeah,
probably talk about that.
Cameron Diaz, who
Cameron Diaz. That's
supposedly-
yeah. The Anna Faris kind of
right. Who's also hysterically funny.
She's just I forgot she was in this, honestly, and she's absolutely hysterical. Jay, we proclaimed Virgin Suicide as a kind of a revelation and a masterpiece last week. We were absolutely blown away by this. This is one of those that I think a lot for our generation, all of our generation. This is one of those movies that unlocked a door for cinema, for independent cinema, early 2000s. This is a door opening kind of film for so many people. But I also know that there's some people that are a little mixed on it still too, and have a little bit of issues with it.
There's stuff to talk about.
There's stuff to talk about.
There's
with this
stuff
movie.
to talk about.
But for you, my friend, your thoughts on it, because you don't have to, Jay, do any films in between. You know, I know you're reading your books and stuff, but what do you think of this one? Her follow-up.
It is truly such a relief to not have to watch 30 movies.
I had to watch Jade
a month and a half. Yeah, yeah, it's great. But no, as far as this movie is concerned, it is one of those game changers. It does feel like kind of this new indie wave in a lot of ways, where you have a lot of kind of contemporary needle drops and a real sense of 2000s early millennial independence, sort of like this new wave of filmmaker, which I love a lot. And this movie, I'm gonna say after this watch, I'll put it in tier 2, Sophia, for me.
Oh, okay.
But it's a great watch, a very thoughtful, provocative movie that for me, more than anything, is kind of a mood piece, where it just gives you this sensation of feeling a certain way, where there are these people in a land they're not familiar with, surrounded by people they can't really relate to. And oh, by the way, even when they are in a more familiar place, they're miserable. And there are so many parallels to draw between, Sofia Coppola going through a divorce at this time, and all of these things, and the meta casting of Bill Murray as this movie star, but he's kind of portrayed as like a sexy masculine movie star in this, which I think is a really interesting kind of swerve for him to do. But in general, this is kind of the dawn of Bill Murray dramatic actor, which is kind of his most revered lane of the 21st century, I would say. And this I still think is, if you're talking about Ryan, we talk about what will be, and this won't be, what is Bill Murray died today on CNN. It says Bill Murray, star of blank, dies at
it's probably Ghostbusters.
Is it Ghostbusters or is it Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Day.
Probably Groundhog Day, Ghostbusters. I mean, Caddyshack.
Groundhog Day is his movie.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
he's got a lot.
I mean, this could be.
It might,
on
honestly,
there.
for Bill Murray, it might just be Bill Murray, comedy legend, dies at 125.
Yeah, because he was one of the original people on SNL, right? And it's
Caddyshack.
All
that stuff. I mean, he was a
Stripes.
You get Bill Murray in your movie, you can get it made.
Yeah, Groundhog Day is the 80s. One though.
Yeah,
God, I love that movie so much.
I think it's Groundhog Day. I mean, Groundhog Day does rock.
God, but there's nothing better. I mean, like that's one of those that was on TV, right, all the time, and you just watch Groundhog Day and it didn't matter which part, right? It's so in the
Yeah.
zeitgeist, and
Well, because it's all the same
yeah, it's
day, right? There's not a ton of plot to Groundhog Day.
No.
But that's what makes it so rewatchable. But
yeah.
you know,
Can
in
I
this film,
ask you a thing? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Jay, because you were mentioning that the divorce that because I was watching the behind the scenes ahead of this. There's like a filming that they filmed behind the scenes and they cut a thing together for Lost in Translation. And the one who's filming the behind the scenes is actually Spike Jonze.
Yeah.
So I was wondering where in this, because there's this myth about that this is right. It's like leading up to her, where she's thinking about her marriage when she's writing this, but it isn't after the divorce.
No.
Right. It is. I mean, it is made. This movie is released after their divorce,
Right.
but obviously is made before. But you look at some of the dialogue in this movie where Charlotte is asking Bob, like, does marriage ever get easier? And he's like, no. And then the part that really hit me, now that I've on this show, I often talk about the, you know, I've got a kid now bump, and like how different things impact me so much more now than they did 2 years ago before I had a son. And when Bill Murray is just like, you know, you have a kid and then everything completely changes. She doesn't really need you anymore. And all of a sudden it moves from what adventure can we have this weekend to we're taking care of the kids. And that, I think, speaks very closely to kind of the experience that Sofia Coppola was maybe going through at that time, whether it was her having this new experience or whether it was her interpreting the way that maybe her husband, this is all conjecture, so I'm not going to sit here and play armchair philosopher really, or armchair psychologist, but
both. I'd love to see you on either armchair.
Look, I would be a great psychologist.
Yeah, I would love to see it with a little pipe, little vest.
Yeah,
a philosopher like Scarlett in this
little notepad. Yeah.
But I think that makes it even more interesting. And what I was referencing at the beginning, talking about how her perspective is so interesting, that she's actually writing about it when she's in it. You know, that this is not just some post-divorce evil. I mean, because she does there are some really mean things in this movie particularly when you watch it again, that she was actually living this at the moment that she was making it, writing it in particular.
Well, it's two people in the midst of this relationship that they're not happy in, right?
Exactly.
So it's not like it's not Marriage Story. It's, you know, these people in the middle of something that feels broken, but they're not entirely sure if they want to break it. Which I assume is probably about where she was at in that moment. But, you know, you look at the middle 40 minutes of this movie where they're just going about town and having a wonderful time, and just the experience of watching that movie is just so enthralling, and I love it so much. And then just from a filmmaking standpoint, I mean, like you said, Christina, it's such a wonderful film. You know, I'm reading this book, Sofia Coppola, The Politics of Visual Pleasure. It's a pretty academic book, but they mentioned in this film, you know, I will often talk about how a film looks so painterly. This film doesn't look painterly. This film looks photographic. This looks like people taking like live action photographs and just kind of real slice of life, capturing reality moments, where this isn't a movie that is plotty by any stretch of the imagination, but it is so evocative of sort of a life lived and a place. And it's just such a lush film to live in and experience. And you're living with people whose lives you'll never really get to experience because this guy is like one of the biggest movie stars in the world or whatever. And I just love being with this movie. I love that about it. I do think it's very funny. They really take advantage of Bill Murray being tall in this. That's like one of their go-to bits. And I think Scarlett Johansson is really, you watch this film and she's so young in it, and you do understand why she became such a huge movie star, and why 17. Bill Murray kind of pivoted to this kind of performance after this, because he got his flowers for this. And
we'll talk about that.
You know, Wes Anderson, obviously, who he worked with before this, but you know, he would keep working with.
I yeah, I think this movie's really good. Shocking to say that. I
Is this a cool movie to like now?
I think that that's
feel
the thing.
Like
I feel like
tide
it's
has turned against it.
yeah.
A little bit.
I feel like that it's not cool to like this movie anymore. It's cool to maybe like something more like Marie Antoinette. You know what I mean, or The Bling Ring.
I think this is a
You know what
cool
I
movie
mean?
to criticize
From
a little bit.
I think that they're yeah. I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about maybe some things that you know jump out to us that aren't as perfect around the edges because I do think that when it was received, at least from when I was growing up, it was like this is the perfect movie. This is the critic movie of the
Dawn
year.
of a
Like,
new era.
you had Lord of the Rings come out, and that's for all the people. You know what I mean? That's for everybody. You got Mystic Rivers, that's for the old heads. But Lost in Translation, that's the cool movie that they got in there. You know what I mean? Like that's the one that you were going to like, no,
You guys
yeah,
even
I didn't
heard of The Strokes?
yeah, you even heard of Lost in Translation? You know that Bill Murray doesn't do your silly comedy anymore, you know. And it was sort of a revelation within a year that had some big studio movies that were up for Best Picture and other Oscars. But I think that kind of Christina took the words right out of my mouth. When you're young and you watch this movie, you're very much in the Scarlett Johansson. Love is different at each age for you. At a certain point, when you're in something that's new and it's fresh, but there is uncertainty and you have questions about it, you try to cling to anyone that has said experience or maybe knows, or you are wandering sort of in a desert by yourself, maybe in this beautiful town or maybe in this beautiful city or just within your own house, you know, too. And you're kind of wondering all the pieces together while then said life is going on for the other person after your marriage. Because clearly this photographer, artist, husband of hers is going on and living his very acclaimed life and is very in demand, while she isn't as much and she's more at, you know, on her own. And she stumbles across this guy, which now, if you're in a relationship long enough, like Bill Murray's character is in this film, you start to sort of have to accept, or you have accepted, the roles of the sort of mundanity that can be found in a relationship like this. And then you're looking for said escape into something that might be youthful or different than your standard, like, let's talk about your wall carpet and let's, you know, you got to be home by this recital and all, you know, or you're taking this small hack job because you got to pay, you know, for the pool house or whatever that case may be.
And really engaging in that your partner wants you to talk about those carpet sample.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like, that's one of the things that makes me laugh about this movie when that happened was the facts of it coming in, and it's like in the middle of the night, you know what I mean, for him, and the disregard then at that point of like time zones or care for the other person. Like, it's like, my agenda is set here and I'm going to get my answer. It's kind of funny and
then how he realizes after a while, oh, I'll just call her and tell her I like that because that's what she knows that she wants to hear. And that'll be a good moment.
And she's, it's really fascinating, the wife character in this. She's still very oblivious to like him having essentially a midlife crisis or having a, you know, a place in his life where he just doesn't, you know, particularly
she's just
care.
apathetic. She's used to it.
Yeah. Or she's just like, you know, stop being a sad sack and deal with it.
Again, it's the kids thing. Yeah.
And so when I was watching this one, though, I was thinking back to a movie that Jay and I talked about last year on our old show. I was thinking about In the Mood for Love a lot when I was watching this movie.
Yes.
And that movie, too, is again about people trapped in these sort of relationships and everything. And I for me, I absolutely love that movie, and it's sort of beautiful way in which that movie is shot and it's choreographed and this sort of
kind of about nothing.
It's kind of about nothing, which is kind of what this movie is. And I'm not saying that she ripped off that movie. I'm not saying that at all. But I do feel that, like, and I mean, one's in Hong Kong, the other one's in Japan and everything, but they do feel like the mirrored cousins of one another. Of, you know, that one feels more of both people are at the same age And so they're very youthful and they're still full of regret, or they're still full of questions and need answers and everything. Here, I think that it is very purposeful to have the difference in the relationship dynamics, the age gap, if if you want to call it that, in here. I think it's very purposeful, and it again is, you can take it both ways. You could just see it as these two people that really need an outlet to speak, and a vessel for empathy. You can feel that it could go into a more relationship side of it. But I don't really think it for me, I've never really thought of this as a love story. I thought of this as two people that are desperate in need for someone to understand the level in which they're at of being lost. And when that final
translation,
not when, yeah, see how you did. But no, it's and then by the end, it doesn't matter what he says in here. It's the fact that they're separating from one another, and they have to go back into the mundanity. They're not exchanging emails. They're not doing anything. This moment, we don't know if it's enough for them, for whatever it's going to be the future of their lives, right? It's sort of like this is what it was, and that might just fuel them to get through the rest of their marriages. It might fuel them to leave said circumstance. We're never going to know. We don't see that point. But I think that they find a sense of peace within one another, and it's really beautiful. And yes, I think it's incredibly shot. Some of these shots, like you're mentioning, Christina, like when they're running and they're going through the different, like the Japanese game places, and they're just going through the bars and all these on locations that did they get a permit to do any of that? No. Did they, is that kind of the beauty of making even movies in the early 2000s?
That's Sophia harnessing her father's energy.
Yeah, you can just like,
the jungles of the Philippines.
A renegade.
I think Sarah Flack's editing in the film is absolutely beautiful and perfect in building the sort of discoverish vibe that the characters have to have, but then also having real moments of quiet. Like, we've talked with our friend Sophia Simonello about, like, Sofia Coppola's not known for her dialogue. Like, her dialogue, it's visuals.
This is maybe her
tone.
talkiest movie.
It is. I would say so. Of the ones that I've rewatched and everything, because I've already done a lot of rewatches already. But it is funny that the most memorable moment, going off that theory, in Sofia Coppola's directorial career, and the question that everybody asks, is a moment of dialogue you cannot hear. And that, I think, is brilliant. That is.
I want to go through like theories on what was said, because I think it's very revelatory.
Well, what do you think? Well, Jay, what do you think she says, or he says to her?
There's all these audio things that I was in, but they're so, I don't know. Some people have taken.
It's so muffled, and it's also not about what he actually says. It's about what that means to you.
Yeah.
And now I regret asking it, because now you've asked me to go first.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See how it goes. See how the game's played.
You know what it is. My impression of it, and that's all it is an impression. So it's like, how do you respond to this moment? In my mind, I think of it as, hey, you taught me how to love sincerely again. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Somebody else might think the complete opposite, but that's the impression it leaves on me. And then obviously they kiss, and it reminds me of, what it reminds me of is, I've had a few moments, a few times in my life, I've had these weird experiences where I'll specifically call out one where Christina wants to get personal on the podcast. I'll get personal.
Oh, I have one too.
Here we go.
So I remember being at a music festival one time, and they had these like sponsored trailers where whatever it was, some beer company bought a RV, and you were able to go in there. And I remember meeting a girl back there and just talking to her for 3 hours in the back of this RV, just about everything. And I knew from the time that I started that conversation, I was not going to ask for this person's phone number. I was never going to talk to this person again. And so I was I know that person whose name I don't even remember. I know her better than I know people that I've known for 25 years. Right. And that's the magic of this, is you have these people who are completely letting down their guard, having no inhibitions whatsoever as far as revealing themselves to this other person. And that can feel like the most romantic thing in the world. But when you look back on it, maybe you think to yourself, I only enjoyed that because they were as sad as I was in that moment. And that's the power of this movie, is that it's two people relating to each other through their lack of identity, through their complete they have no idea what's going to go on in their future, and they don't see a path to happiness. And when you say to yourself, I'm never going to talk to this person again, you can fully be yourself. And I've had that happen several times. I've had it happen on a plane. I've had it happen, again, at this music festival. I've had it a few other times, but it so evoked those memories in me, which are powerful memories and powerful moments in my life, even though I'll never talk to those people again. It's a crazy experience. But
Jay, I love that, and that's exactly what I was saying, that you happen to meet someone in that moment of transition, and then it's gone, but it's such an important moment that maybe even the other person doesn't think about. I have that. You guys know David Carr, the late New York Times writer. He wrote an incredible book about his addictions and things. He had been on this was years and years ago. He had been on my show a few times, and I had booked him on a conference, and he was coming to my city, so we decided that we'd have just a little lunch before everything was going on. But at that moment that he was arriving, I was going through a divorce, like in the days that it happened. And I believe that maybe my ex-husband was supposed to be at that lunch with us. So when he came, I just blurted out, oh, I'm going through this thing, because I didn't know what to say. I don't know why. But that conversation that followed, that we had about sort of what was going on in that moment, is the most important conversation I had with anyone about what I was going through. And that was it. It was that lunch. And it was like that whisper in the ear, basically saying, you're not stuck anymore. You'll get out of this. It's going to be fine. And that was it. We had a few conversations going through, but I don't even think he realized what a big moment it was for me. But I will remember that forever. And I always think about in this movie.
I think that's what's so great. It's like I remember well, we're all getting personal. Let's get personal.
Let's go.
This is what happens with you, right?
I know. I bring this out. So
also, that's what happens with this movie, which is its power.
In 2022,
you're getting way more specific.
Yeah, I went into the hospital, and when I was in the hospital, and everything turned out okay, folks. But it was like a big scare, and I had a fever and everything. And I felt very claustrophobic afterwards, because I felt very claustrophobic in the hospital. It was my first kind of ever stint doing something like that. So I was flying back from the Middleburg Film Festival, and I had a panic attack on the flight, because I started thinking about, like, what if this is the last flight I'm ever going to be on? And the guy next to me could sense that. And he looked at me, he said, "Are you all right?" I said, "No, I'm not doing good." And he said, what do you need me to do? I said, "Just talk to me. Just talk to me about anything. And I'll get my mind off of this." We ended up talking for the 45-minute to 50-minute flight from DC to Charlotte, or whatever, how long it was. And he got off the plane, and he said, "What's your full name?" and everything. And I told him what my name was, and he told me what his name was. And I said, "Thank you so much for helping me." So about 3 months later, I go on Instagram, of all places, and I get this message. And he goes, "Hey," it's from this guy. And I'm not going to name his name out loud. But
it was Edward Norton.
It was, yeah. It was Austin Butler. But no, he told me, he said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me from the plane. But I Googled you, and I found who you were, and I found your stuff. And I just wanted to call, or I just wanted to message you and reach out and see if you're doing okay." And I messaged her back and I said, "Oh my God, you never thought you were gonna. I never thought I was gonna because." You know, especially in an airport, it's just like in a city, right? And you see somebody go off into the distance and they're gone and they're never going to be back there in your life again. And yeah. And so I remember telling him, I said, yes, I think I'm going to be okay. I think I'm going to be okay. And he goes, you will be, don't worry. And that was the last time we ever talked. Like he didn't follow me. I didn't follow. All he wanted to do was reach out, and he was a really nice guy. And it's just that little moment. And now like, and just to be able to know instinctively also too that something's wrong within someone. We have this great human ability to be able to see through people if we actually care. That's what's I think so beautiful about the movie is, in a world in which people are just going through their lives, sort of artificiality of just how it is. These two people, they are completely broken. And they need to go out. They need to get away from just like, because like we see in the film, we see Bob just kind of, he's coming in, he's doing this shoot, and just how, it could be fun to do a shoot like that. But if you've done that probably for 30, 40 years, sell this product, go to this place, be the dancing monkey, it can get exhausting after a certain while. And if home's not very good, you need a place to escape. And they both need that. And escape is okay. It doesn't have to go beyond that time. Like all of us just mentioned a certain specific time. This is like a week, right? It's almost like a week of time. But how short does that week of time fill in the grandness of your whole life? Right? That 1 week is a 52 of years and years and years. Right. And so, but it can be super valuable because, by the end of this, you see them depart and they're smiling. It's rather than paying for a therapist, they had real human connection. And that's something too, that's extremely valuable. But yeah.
And you were saying before, Ryan, that some people think that this could be a love affair, or maybe it was you, Jay. For me, it's never felt that way.
No.
It's much more powerful, just that connection. I don't see them having any sort of contact after this week. That's how I see it.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is what
they had AOL. You know what I mean? Yahoo.
They didn't. They only had faxes. They were even faxing each other what bar they went to.
There was actually like a weird coincidence that I should have brought up earlier that completely relates to this movie so I was at dinner this evening as we're recording this episode with my family.
What'd you eat?
This is what parenthood is. I had half of my son's chicken fingers and French fries.
Hell yeah.
But
did you dunk it in anything?
Honey mustard.
Okay. That's the king of the dips. Just wanted to put that out there.
And then so I was like, okay, I got to go do this podcast. I'm sorry, y'all. This is pre-scheduled. We plan these things out in advance. And I got an Uber because my wife wanted to stay. And so I just got an Uber home. And on my way home, this driver, who again, this is the whole thing. It's like, I'm never going to talk to this Uber driver again. He just asked me, if you could change one thing in the world, what would you change? That's what my Uber driver asked me.
Oh, this is a good question, actually.
And
how'd you answer it?
I really did have this kind of, in Fight Club, what they call single serving friends, right? Where it's like, we can get so intimate with each other because I'm never going to see you again. And the only thing that you'll take away from this is a story that you can tell the next rider or whatever. And I'm not going to say what he said. I'm going to treat that like what Bill Murray says in Scarlett Johansson's ear at the end of this film.
Look at him.
But it was
what did you say?
A profound experience.
That he wanted something other than chicken fingers.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what he would change.
But it was like a really weird thing where I did think to myself, this is kind of how Lost in Translation makes me feel. So
like
just
an Uber,
a weird personal experience.
Like a wonderful Uber ride.
Yes, it was this self-fulfilling prophecy of talking about this movie.
That's actually that's a really good question, actually, because you can go so many. That can be such a big question. That can also be such a very selfish answer.
You could also just be funny about it. He said he's asked 850 people that question, and he gave me some of the answers, and some of them are like, I'd change hunger. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but that's not really like, whatever. I gave a very practical answer.
Wait, are you not going
like,
to say his, but you won't say yours?
He didn't give one. He was just telling me that.
Oh, it was just your answer. Oh, okay. I thought he gave you a little bit of behind the scenes.
I tried to give an answer
sauce.
that was like, I would do this, and then I think that would solve this, and this. I was giving like the first domino. A lot of people were giving like world peace, and I'm like, okay, how are we going to get? How are we going to do that? That's how my brain works. I guess in those people's mind is like, snap your finger, let's just change it. But it was a fascinating thing.
Christina, what would you do?
And then as I was leaving, he was like, don't give me a bad rating because that was a weird question. I was like, man, 5 stars, good tip. Let's go. Like, you did great.
Christina, how would you
I
answer
don't even
question?
know what that first domino would be. That semes like you should run for office or something, Jay.
Well, you know what?
That first domino
he said one person told him one person in one writer that he had told him, I would go to Washington, D.C., and I would say, you have to fix the national debt in 3 hours. And if they didn't do it, I would want to murder every politician in the United States of America.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of different answers to this question.
I can't believe the guy that created the Purge movies was in the Uber driver with him. No, I mean, like.
Well, we got to the end of that movie quick.
Yeah, we did.
With lots of nice stories, though.
No, we did. Well, I mean, that's the kind of thing we go back and forth here and everything with it. But no, yeah, damn, I don't even know how to answer that question. That actually is like, that's a hell of an Uber question. How do you go into an Uber question?
I had to sit there for a few minutes and just think. I was like, all right, you're going to have to make that. This is a deep question. You're going to have to give me a minute. And he was like, yes, take all the time you need. Take all the time you need. But this is what I ask every writer. I
mean, no taxes?
No taxes. Libertarian Ryan over here.
Yeah. No classes just no taxes on anything. I think taxes are stupid.
Wow. There you go.
That's not just for billionaires. That's for it's for everybody. Taxes, like, especially on, you look at taxes and fees.
Ryan doesn't like highways. Ryan doesn't like
I'd say maybe more taxes for certain billionaires.
Well, certain people,
the wealth.
Yeah, but also too, given the tax codes, a lot of people in the below the line, they're having to pay more than those guys. So no taxes to those people, please. I mean, free college, free education.
Free education was one that he said several people had.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
The debt is a good idea. I think.
What about, here's what I would change. Sofia Coppola gets any budget she wants.
I think anybody should. How about anybody gets any budget they want?
Not McG.
Oh man, not McG.
Not McG. I saw Terminator Salvation. I actually just rewatched Terminator Salvation.
You've been watching. Jay's been on a kick of watching some really.
I've been watching weird Terminator movies. I've been.
Why are you watching the Terminator movies?
They're doing it on blank check.
Oh, okay.
I watch the blank check movies.
All right. Look at you trying to stay relevant with the podcast of today. Okay. Well, there's still a lot to talk about with this movie. We got
totally sidetracked. We barely talked about.
We barely talked about this. So
to be clear,
somebody throw something out there. Come on, let's go. Like, what do you want to? You want to talk about the opening shot and how some people got really upset about that?
Yeah, some people are very mad about the opening shot. And there was a thought I had watching it where I was just like, if a guy made this movie,
oh shit,
oh man, people would be upset. Which is kind of just an interesting thing to think about. Where if a movie was released anonymously, how differently it would be received, because there are a lot of feminist readings that might not exist if this movie was directed by a man, with images that are inherently provocative and sultry and let's call them aesthetically pleasing in certain ways. And that opening shot probably being the biggest among those. It's a 40-second shot of Scarlett Johansson's butt in sheer panties.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Based on a beautiful.
That's what it is. Based on a beautiful painting. Right. So it is that, I said photographic. There's also that painterly element to it. But how many people know it's based on that painting? 1%.
No.
I didn't know until I read about it. So, it is on its face just this aesthetically pleasing image of a beautiful woman's backside.
Yeah.
To open
But I mean,
the movie.
Sophia plays with those sort of
Yes.
female, the pink toenails in the shag carpet, and Priscilla, or the very sort of girly but at the same time really aesthetically beautiful and a bit sexy portraits of women and girls in all her films. And that's just something that she seems to work with both as a photographer and in all her picture, and that gives us an image of this woman that we're going to be following. So for me, I thought it was really beautiful.
I think
Yeah.
for me, when I was thinking about it and reading on it, my sort of interpretation of it is it's leading the audience into the expectation of, okay, you see a movie with this very attractive young woman and this older man, and you think, oh, they're gonna like fall in love, and they're gonna, it's gonna be maybe like Last Tango in Paris sort of situation or something like that. They're abroad and da 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 da. That's like the sexiest shot because there's a point to it where she's saying, this is all you're gonna get. This is this is, to me at least, this is the closest you'll get to anything risque or controversial in this movie, and so your expectations are going to be completely blown from that.
Well,
yeah, but that's
and
not
the prostitute scene does not work.
Yeah, but it's not
anymore.
between these two characters. It's not this character doing that, and that
Right.
all that would be like this character performing all of those acts. I think in the hands of a male, and realize that what's interesting about her isn't her sexuality. It's her brain. It's her vulnerability. It's the things that make us all human that I find. That's what I think with it. It's like, yes, it's an homage to a painting. It's also, her kind of recapturing a little bit of the male gaze from her contemporaries. But also too, like, it's also being like, this is the most quote unquote romantic thing you're going to see in this movie.
Well, it's also about, this is how she is viewed to the men in this movie.
Yeah.
I think that's an important
That's
element.
also how probably she's viewed in a lot of circles as well, where she's like,
and that's a big part of the virgin suicides too.
Yeah, you just think of a woman
Exactly.
as their ass.
So many other
You don't
movies
think of
worse.
them as their brain. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, I was saying this before the show, that this was controversial, and this was even brought up in Billy Crystal's Oscar sing-along, monologue, and it's cringy then, and it's cringy now to hear the most popular Oscar host of our lifetime sing about someone's butt on national television. And it's like, I don't think you watched the
Seth
film.
MacFarlane took it to
No.
but not get the point that she's trying to make here and use it for a cheap punchline, and not real. And then it just proves that these people don't watch their own movies. But no, yeah, I mean, no, I agree with you, Christina. The strip scene or the call girl scene really it's really rough. It's really
rough.
Overblown.
Should we talk about the stuff that doesn't work?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Yeah, that one is like, you take that out, like, you don't need that. I mean, she's
the biggest
hired to just have him have a good time because he's a movie star. Like, that's not good.
The biggest criticism of the film is the cultural representation. Where some people feel like Japan is used as a punchline at nearly every turn, which I think I disagree with. And also, one of the things I like about this movie is that it is daring you to like Bob in this movie. He is off-putting in so many ways, but you kind of relate to him through his disillusion.
Jay, I was just going to say, but for anybody that's foreign to a new place, wouldn't there be?
Well, that might be the subjectivity of the sure.
Yeah, wouldn't there just be?
But he does like certain the Asian voice imitation.
Yeah,
he does a lot of stuff in this.
No,
film
I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying,
by
like,
today's standards.
Yeah,
but I think that's part of the character.
But
it's
I mean,
the whole
Anna
depiction
Faris is
versus
doing a
endorsement
caricature too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are. I mean, that's unfortunately and as progressed as we are, people still do these stereotypes on a daily basis.
To be clear, I don't really have a problem with it, but
No,
it is
I-
one
I-
of the most
no.
common criticisms.
No,
of
it's a fair criticism. I mean, you are also, I mean, essentially it's a white woman filmmaker, a white filmmaker, you know, using a place that is not familiar to her.
definitely coming from an outsider perspective.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And so I understand that, but I
it's
don't.
the point.
Yeah, that's the point of it, is that
That
there's
that
these
it's an
two.
outsider perspective. That's
Yeah.
why it doesn't bother me in that way, except for a couple of scenes where I just feel they don't work anymore.
Like
if
which
they ever
ones?
did.
Like which ones for you,
Like
Christina?
the call girl scene, which
Yeah.
I think is completely overblown and unnecessary for the film in general. But that's the one I'm most against.
Yeah, I mean,
But I
like,
also think there are some real scenes of reverence for Japanese culture too. I think
Oh,
specifically
absolutely.
of the
when
scene
she's on her
when
she's
she
on
goes
the,
out of town and
Is it Kyoto?
she's doing the walk.
Yeah.
I think she is in Kyoto, and you know, she sees this kind of group of people doing this I'm not even going to pretend to know what they're doing, but they're doing some sort of royal looking walk across the walkway there, and she really has the sense of awe to her. And then when she's also at the monks, watching the monks too, there's this real sense of admiration. And even when she's in the first arcade where they're playing like Dance Revolution and Guitar Hero and all that stuff, there's this real sense of anthropological interest in what they're doing, where she's like,
And also
I don't get this, but it's interesting.
The party scene, the first one when they're in someone's home, it just feels so natural. And,
Yes.
and apparently those are her friends. I mean, she spent so much time in Tokyo, which is one of the reasons why she wanted to make this movie, and had engaged a bunch of her friends from there. And that feels just like a lovely, homey party at someone's place in Tokyo, which is great.
Yeah. No, I think that those scenes, I think like the nightlife, the, you know, the restaurants, the places that they go to, I think it is of an experience. It's also a 20-year-old movie, so of course some things are just not going to age well. But I think for the most part it is done pretty much from the position of these two people that are fish out of waters and are completely just going with most of the flow in and around
Trying to find
them.
any sort of superficial happiness.
Yeah,
short
I mean,
term.
him and sort of like the bathhouse, you know, and her, you know, and I mean, like them having the awkward lunch that they have, the angry sort of lunch that they have, her going off on her own adventures. Then, you know,
Why would anyone make you cook your own food?
I love that they're sort of. What's also interesting about their relationship is sort of the shorthand, right? They understand, again, you know, there is a lot of dialogue, but it also feels like as it goes on, the less and less that they really have to communicate in order.
It's also
to
their mutual appreciation of snark.
Yes,
Right.
I think that's really what's so great
That's a
about it.
good
And that's where Murray gets to really excel, which, I mean, we want to talk about his performance.
He's got
in here.
so many just like thrown off lines that are so good.
He's incredible in this movie.
I think one of my favorites is when he's doing the photo shoot and they're like, yeah, act like the Rat Pack. And then he's like, ring a ding ding. And then
Yeah, that's more Dino, but Roger Moore, and then he goes to Roger Moore. I'm more of a Sean Connery guy, but okay, you know. And this is iced tea. If you gave me a real whiskey, I'd really love that, you know. And but there's I don't know. There's just something. You know, you talked about it, Jay, of like how he kind of, for the rest of his career, like he hasn't really gone and done like flat out comedic performances. It seems like as he's gotten from this moment, it's almost like people told him that it was okay for him to make more, or he's essentially with like Jarmusch or Wes Anderson, or Sofia Coppola,
or of course playing Garfield.
Tale of Two Kitties. He's allowed himself to not have to play these over the top comedic roles, and we've got to look at him more introspectively. I mean, obviously he's sort of now a controversial figure, Bill Murray, in the world and whatnot, but he's always had this sort of interesting sort of facade about him, but it's interesting when watching this film and thinking how much of that is pulled from Murray, even at this point too, because I mean, to be one of the most funniest people on the planet and have to always be performing and always be on, I would expect there are moments of where this kind of mode really goes in. I mean, I've read years over the last couple of years about Robin Williams and what, how how sad his life really kind of was, because it was always the expectation of that he had to be
Tears
on.
of a Clown.
Yeah, and you see how sort of Jim Carrey has had to, has been over the last 10 to 15 years too, of like how he's really taken it back and stepped away and doesn't do that much unless it's like a Sonic movie or a giant payday.
But there's also this weird idea of doing dramatic movies. That's real acting. I've evolved.
It's the Sandler thing, right?
Comedy.
Like when Sandler's done when he did Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
Like people are like, holy crap, Adam Sandler.
Why doesn't he do this all the time?
Yeah.
Like, why do
he
people like it when I do this so much more than, whatever.
But also too, like you look at Sandler, like he's got his Netflix deal, but he's going to be doing a couple more things. Like he's doing another Safdie, another Baumbach
like the
movie,
baseball card movie. Is that
Yeah,
what he's doing with the Safdies.
Or what was it? Or Hustle,
Hustler,
which was was just like a basketball movie, and he was
Spaceman.
Yeah,
that new one.
I haven't seen
I
that.
haven't watched that yet.
Christina, did you watch Spaceman?
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
I like that.
A glowing review from Christina.
Yeah.
She
Put
says,
that on the
"Get
poster.
back to the ridiculous 6.
I'll let you see it first.
Yeah, put that on the poster.
More Jack and Jill.
Meh.
Quotation marks. Not my cup of tea. I love that. I love it. But no.
Can we talk about why Anna Faris never became huge? I mean, I think she's so spectacular.
She's a fascinating
She is a
character in the history
fascinating.
of like Hollywood.
Yeah, for that decade of the 2000s, they were trying so hard to put her in every vehicle, and it just didn't work. And I don't. Yeah.
I mean, I have an idea as to why she didn't become a huge star, but
tell us.
I think it's because she had a special needs child and she wanted to be a mom. But
well, I mean that wasn't until later though, Jay.
I mean, he's probably 10-ish now.
Yeah, so that would be in the early 2010s.
I know, I'm not talking about now, but she was in a bunch of stuff between that Lost in Translation and then.
Oh yeah, but I think what Christina is talking about is the fact that like from this point on, she was in a lot of things.
She did like House Bunny and
yeah, she was like House. She was
in
Bunny.
that
this year.
In that Tommy Lee Jones movie.
Well, she was in this. By this point, she had already been in 3 scary movies.
She was big in the scary movies.
But the thing is, when you see her in that press junket scene where she's so amazing with the whole Keanu Reeves, we both have dogs, and I mean it's so funny that and she could have had. I mean, this is maybe a stretch, but a bit of an Emma Stone trajectory or Jennifer Lawrence trajectory. It just seems like she was never afforded. Maybe it's true what you're saying, Jay, that she didn't want it, but if she did, she wasn't afforded to go move forward in roles that weren't just solely a slapstick comedy.
It is funny that you mentioned that because she's like. The House Bunny is a movie that
where Emma Stone is like the nerd.
Yeah, the nerd in it, and then she goes on to be a 2-time Oscar winner. Meanwhile, she's the one producing this.
Emma Stone is the punchline in that movie.
Yeah, exactly. But like, no, I mean, like that's the thing is I think that what you're saying, Christina, and what we're kind of alluding to, and it is interesting, the idea of that Anna Faris was never really given the Bill Murray vehicle for her to be like. I think of a character.
That's what the House Bunny was. To be fair,
it was not a vehicle like Lost in Translation to be able to shine in a different avenue.
She's never shown any interest in doing like dramatic stuff.
Well, you would know if they never.
You know this?
Yeah, like I mean, is any you
when
her
I spoke
agent?
to her
You know what I
last
mean?
week,
Like,
we don't. No
I mean,
drama
like
for me.
I think the person that like obviously is the sort of equivalent to her, but got the opportunity to show a different side. Doesn't show it enough is somebody like Melissa McCarthy, because like McCarthy, both of them did like Chuck Lorre series in the 2010s, Mike and Molly and Moms, but McCarthy is known for mostly her comedic roles. But then she has something like Can You Ever Forgive Me, which is a completely different movie.
Didn't she just do a Richard Curtis movie? Which I know is not like drama, but it was a Netflix movie.
Which one?
I can't remember. It was some Netflix movie that went absolutely nowhere.
Are you talking about?
I'm going to look it up.
Are you talking about Anna Faris, or are you talking about?
No, Melissa McCarthy.
I don't know. Her career is absolutely crazy. She
does movies with her husband.
Talk about stop working with your husband.
It's called Genie.
Yeah, it was like a Max movie or something like. I don't know. It
was written by Richard Curtis.
Good for her. Good for her. I don't know. No one's talking.
Her and
that's about it.
No one else.
Just her.
Just her. It's McCarthy's
Apologies to the other people in that
movie. No, but like no, I think that you're kind of hitting something there, Christina, about like it it is interesting how. I mean the other big thing that Jay's you kind of alluded to with that is she became a mom, but the other guy in her household, who while she was becoming a very big comedic star, he ends up becoming the bigger star. Yeah, and then divorcing her and leaving her, and that's Chris Pratt, who's now one of.
But her last movie was 2018.
Yeah, well,
she was in something in 2022.
Yeah, she was in like 2022.
She has a podcast. I sort of. I
know she has a podcast.
I'm a mom too, and I do feel that she could be. I'm sure she could organize her life. I mean, it feels like.
She could, but look at like
take care of that child as well.
Cameron Diaz. Like Cameron Diaz was
well,
like, I want to be a mom.
Cameron Diaz hardly worked again after this disdainful picture of her in this movie.
Well, no, I mean Diaz worked probably a movie. Diaz kind of worked for like another decade, and she's. I mean, talk about somebody that has the chops. I mean, she was
very openly just like, I want to be a mom.
Yeah,
like, there's nothing wrong. I'm not.
She's coming back. No.
Who does that? I think
no. But
honorable thing to do, mom or
no, I think she tried, and I think that like some of the things worked and some of the things didn't. I mean, she was clearly one of the leads for a franchise, the scary movies that aren't made anymore. They don't make spoof movies like that anymore. They tried to put her in a bunch of other different things as well, and it just didn't work. But yeah, I think like it's also that weird thing of like she was in a bunch of movies that don't get made anymore. And it would be interesting how
comedies don't exist anymore.
Yeah, so it would be interesting to see how like she would work and how they would kind of put. I mean, like her doing Moms with Allison Janney on CBS for 7 years, like that's kind of the place for a performer like that to go, I guess, because the studios don't make the effort to have like. A movie like The House Bunny doesn't exist anymore because they don't make comedies like that anymore,
Even the big comedies like Trainwreck, for example, they have to have some dramatic like moments to it. They have to be James L. Brooks movies.
I mean, at that point, but at that point,
Adam McKay movies.
You have one of the biggest stand-up comedians at the time in Amy Schumer cashing in her check to make that movie, and she still has. She's only writing it. She's not directing it. She's getting Judd Apatow, who's one of the bigger comedic directors still on the planet to do it. So
but he makes James L. Brooks movies. He doesn't make.
Well, I mean, he doesn't make good James L. Brooks movies. Let's just.
He's made good James L. Brooks movies, but he's gotten more James L. Brooksy in this history.
It's really funny how like Judd Apatow's like getting really mad at Netflix when he made a Netflix movie during the pandemic. Anybody remember that? Like
I do. It's a traumatic event for me watching that movie.
But I think
that one was tough.
But I mean this movie
I
also.
Just say I do think looking at something like Moms, that I do think Anna Faris can move between comedy and drama.
Yeah, I think so. I think
she's just has to continue doing.
No, I agree. I think she's talented. I was giving her short shrift when I said she's had no interest in that. I think she's extremely talented.
No, but I think, this movie also, this was the sort of rise of Johansson, because this is the.
Oh, yeah. She
was a child actor for years and everything, and she was like in movies like Horse Whisperer and stuff. But yeah, Scarlett Johansson's been in our lives for like 30 years, for an entire life, essentially. It is interesting that most people will probably know her for the Marvel movies. But she also makes really interesting choices.
Is that her obituary title?
As sad as it is, it's Black Widow actress Scarlett Johansson.
It's probably just like Marvel actress Scarlett
Marvel,
Johansson.
yeah. I mean, is that like what most of them are? Like Chris Hemsworth, what's that going to be? Thor, right? Like Evans.
Chris Hemsworth will definitely be Thor. Evans will definitely be Captain America. But Scarlett Johansson does so much interesting stuff.
What would Downey?
What was the new thing that was announced like a couple days ago for Scarlett Johansson?
Oh, she's doing.
I was also surprised about that.
Oh God, she's doing some. Damn, what's that thing that? Christina, now to make me look up.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson movie news. As we're doing this right on a podcast, you gotta love it. She's gonna be audio. Oh, it's the Jurassic World movie that she's in.
The Jurassic World thing. Yeah.
What a fucking.
Wait, she's doing the Jurassic World movie?
She's in talks to do the new Jurassic World movie. That's
hilarious. Here's a question: what is Scarlett Johansson's best performance?
Ooh. That's a great question. I would say, weirdly enough, her best performance is she's not even on camera for.
You're going to go with her?
I would say her. And
I don't think I can go that far.
She's fantastic.
A fascinating compliment to this one.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Under the skin is
under the skin's
yeah,
really
under
fantastic.
the skin, I'd say, and then this one. I love her in this one.
I do love her in this. I might say this actually.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, like those are really good. I mean, she's really good in this movie too. That's the other thing. She's kind of great here. I mean,
she's great in this. It's hard to say that her breakout, especially when she was so young, it's hard to say that this was her best, but it's the one that broke her through, and there's a reason it broke her through, is because she's so amazing in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah,
you feel for her so profoundly in this movie.
She's been making movies since 1994. So yeah.
When she was what? When was she born?
84. So she was 10. So she's 40. She's going to be 40 this year.
So she's 19 when this film's probably 20 when it comes out, I guess.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit younger than that.
But she's playing older, which is interesting.
She's playing 24 or something, but someone said she was 17 when they started.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking about like the gray jacket, the white shirt that she's wearing here in my background there at the make your own meal lunch. It's you know how we always talk about like, hey, who's which character is dressing up as Christopher Nolan in his next movie? It looks like something Sofia Coppola would wear on set. Like I love the idea of. I hadn't really thought about the sort of her personal angle to it until this watch, and you know, The Virgin Suicides is clearly just this movie of empathy, but it's looking at these boys
based on source material.
It's based on source material. It's looking at these boys reflecting onto these women and sort of in society and how we're looking at these girls. I think that the other great thing about Sofia Coppola is her way of injecting, like you're saying, Christina, her personality and her personal life into it. And I think that this, while The Virgin Suicide is a very clear, and you can tell artistically personal film.
Very personal film, yeah.
This feels personal in terms of her own
experiential.
Self. Yes, and I feel like
starting to bleed Hollywood into her movies.
Yes, and I feel like she's bleeding her own life. She's bleeding her marriage. She's bleeding even like through Bob, the sense of what fame is, right? And how it feels almost as if like Bob, I'm not saying that he is a conduit for Frances, but like it's a guy at this point in his career where he is doing mostly like meet and greets and signings and like ads and, you know, whiskey commercials. Her father at this point is making wine. He's not making movies anymore. So it is kind of interesting when you really think about that.
Excuse me, Betwixt. Thank you very much.
Wait, was that out?
I think that was like right around here, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, like
he was doing like experimental stuff.
He was doing some really weird
something.
Yeah. Yeah, but in between he was stomping grapes at the winery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and she talked to me about how he would always go write in a hotel in Vegas or Reno and her whole experiences with that loneliness in a hotel, and that's definitely based on both their experiences, her and her father. But can we talk about the disdain she feels towards the whole junket scene?
Oh my God.
I mean, she does that really, but you can really feel that that is not her world in terms of the film Hollywood world you have to be in as a filmmaker.
It's sort of the fake plasticness that is surrounding any movie release. The idea of like,
The
you know,
poster
that this is,
behind and
this
But also the
camera.
phony baloney movie that she's in.
Yes.
She has no respect for this
No respect
Keanu
for that.
Reeves action film
No.
being represented here.
no, she has no, for none of
In
that
her
whatsoever.
book, the new book, the archive, the one that came last year, she has a bunch of pictures of her mood board, and there you have every single actress of that period. It's from Cam. That's why I was stuck on Cameron, Charlize, Cameron, all these in different outfits that she was using for Anna Faris's look,
Yeah.
and they're all from that type of movie.
But there's also too something just like weirdly also sad about that character. It's like always having, again, it goes back to like the Murray thing about being a comedian, always having to be on, always having to be that, you know, that way. And like, I think of the scene where the two guys are coming up to him when he's just at the bar and they're like asking him about like what he wants to, you know, what he's doing. What are you doing there, man? Like, what are you doing? This is crazy that you're here. Da, 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 da. Like, you know,
No, the best is when the lady at the end is like, "Oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you." And he's like, "I need to leave right now."
now. You know what I mean? Like he's like, if I don't
Also,
get out
the
of
title of the film is Twixt. It's not Betwixt. I apologize.
Okay.
Also,
Yeah.
it came out several
Accept
years
it.
after this.
here. But
We're
no,
gonna
I
do
just,
a one-off
Haven't talked-
Twixt episode.
there you go.
We didn't talk about Giovanni Ribisi, who's also really good.
Interesting. Interesting. I mean, you know,
It's one of the few understated Giovanni Ribisi performances. Normally, he's going big.
he likes to go big, and I find, I mean, it is interesting that he is. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't the conduit of Spike Jonze reincarnated. Maybe he's not.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's interesting. I don't get huge Spike Jonze energy off of him. In this
no, because
movie,
Spike, but also Spike Jonze feels like a guy that.
but
goes real
he's
big.
an artist.
Yeah.
He's
What's funny,
a
like
guy
when
who's
he,
interested in going around.
when he does like movie cameos, Spike Jonze in movies, he's always playing like this big, larger than like Babylon or Wolf of Wall Street or stuff like that.
He's such a good actor. I think.
And then, but when he
Spike
makes
Jonze.
movies, he's making little mood pieces that are like introspective and beautiful. And
He needs to make more movies too.
yeah,
What are
when
we
the hell
doing?
is he? Yeah, talk about a guy that I was talking about.
Still
Jonathan.
gliding on that Jackass money.
I was. Well, that's the other thing is like he's such a involvement with the Jack. Like
I once wrote a piece that was on. I didn't interview him or anything, and it was such a lame title for me to say. It sounds like it was like an interview piece with him. I said Spike Jonze, the existential jackass. That was the title for the piece I wrote.
Good
oh
one.
man, I like that. But like, yeah, he's mostly doing like iPhone commercials nowadays. He's not doing any movies. Very, very Jonathan Glazer. Very like guy comes in, hasn't made a movie in a decade. But I bet if he could get the financing for
He
that.
could make a movie. He could make a
He could
$12 million movie.
Yeah, he could easily make like
Like
a 20
Her
million.
did pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, most of his movies have. Even Wild Things, which I mean,
Wild Things.
yeah, where the Wild Things are.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the.
Oh no,
Wild
no.
Things.
Wild Thing, no. Spike Jonze Wild Things, that would be really interesting. But no. I just didn't want to say the full title. But
I love Where the Wild Things Are. I love that movie.
I have one of the craziest stories ever in a theater when I saw Where the Wild Things Are.
Save it for our Spike Jonze series,
Which
we should do.
We should really do. That's
Yeah,
actually a
you
really.
should.
That's like a 4-episode
Short.
month, like a month series. Yeah.
We do, not if you include videos.
Oh, that's
A
true.
bonus episode for
fabulous.
music
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah, we didn't do
Beastie
that with.
Boys bonus episode.
We didn't do that with Todd
That'd be
Haynes. We really
amazing.
should have. Yeah. No, but is there anything else?
Or with Paul Thomas Anderson. We could have done it with BT.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Anything else we need to touch on? We haven't touched on yet with this movie. I feel like.
Oh my gosh! As usual, I feel like we barely scratched the surface.
I
We're
know.
going all in so many different directions.
I know, but I also feel like we've done a great job at talking about the themes of this movie. And Christina's done a great job keeping us in line for the most part. Well, Christina, I mean, you're talking about like the disdain for the junket stuff. Like when it felt like that when you talked with her that there wasn't that much for that, at least in the terms of a conversation. But she doesn't talk a lot that much, Sofia
No,
Coppola
she
nowadays.
doesn't talk a lot,
I think
seemingly. And I don't think her family, I think she
so.
learned a lot during the Godfather 3 period. And I don't think it's her thing to talk about her. I don't think she wants to comment all that much about
Mhm.
her movies. What you see is you should get your own perspective on her movies and not ask her about it.
A little bit of that
I
David
think,
Lynch in her.
yeah. And I think that, and I mean, not to get into that Nepo baby thing, but I think when you've been in the industry so deeply as her family has been, including her mother and everything, I just think that that's not the part that you're interested in.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Um,
Yeah, how
No,
foolish are we for not? We've got a person who's experienced Sofia Coppola firsthand. We barely dug in. I'm
yeah.
curious, Christina, like, what was your experience with Sofia Coppola? I mean, she seems nice, but certainly not the most public person in the world.
No, she was amazing, but as Ryan was alluding to, I mean, she answers very politely and she gives her question, but you can tell where where she'll go and where she won't go. And I think that what she really has is a real clear vision. We were talking about Priscilla, about how she has developed looking at young women and women in different transitions, and as she was talking about how big this movie was for her, Priscilla, in terms of being a mother of two teens herself, and how her perspective has changed in terms of that, and how she really always starts with the visuals. She really is a visual person. She starts with her mood board. She starts with her visual thinking, and that you can really feel in her films, and how important the music is to her. And it's a whole, the Sofia Coppola world building is amazing to listen to. How she starts with all these different elements, and I think that that's what makes her so fascinating.
Mhm. And it's
I
so interesting that you say that, like, all of that, because this sort of bucks those trends that you think of first with Sofia Coppola. This is one of the least reliant on needle drops. This is one of the talkiest movies that she's ever made.
But one of the best needle drop. I mean, when Jesus and Mary Chain
Oh yeah, for
comes on
sure,
at the
for
end,
sure.
I mean, I almost died the first.
It's like more selective, but maybe more powerful than anyone she's
Yeah.
done before. But she also has I one moment I love is when um they're staring at each other as if they want to be romantic. And what song is it that the guy is singing? It's oh god, oh my god, it's you. I can't remember what it is. That's so annoying that I can't remember what it is. But it's something about how much this person loves another person, and it's like that's totally not the energy of this actual moment. But it's so funny that it's being juxtaposed by this song that's going on right now, and that's just so brilliant from her. It's just everything is so thought through.
It's
Um,
so thought through.
yeah.
Yeah, really, when I was I hadn't thought of that before, the world building, in terms of that she really does that. She really starts with the theme and an idea, and then she sort of builds the entire vision around that, even if it's a smaller mood piece. When you consider what she has built around it, it really is quite spectacular.
Yeah, I think
I'm so into you is what the song is.
I'm
I'm
so into
so into
you.
you.
Yeah, no, I
As
think
they're having this like crisis looking at each other.
Mhm.
So good.
no, I think that she's crafted just, yeah, such a special movie that for the most part has aged well.
Yes.
And yeah, it's one of her best films to date. It's definitely earned. It
Is
definitely
this
has
that's the question. Is this one of her best? Is this one of your favorite Sofia Coppola films,
not.
Christina?
Oh, for Christina,
Well,
yeah.
for me, it is because because this is for me on top, just in terms of personal resonance. I
Mm-hmm,
really feel
mm-hmm.
that in terms of what we were talking about before of having these meetings, these chance meetings that change your life, which is something that I feel. Also the fact of being alone in the big city. I have a lot of personal references to this. I also, as I was saying, we haven't talked about all that much, but how funny it is. And every time I see it, I remember it really is a funny movie. So for me, it's one of her absolute top films.
Yeah.
But I
Honestly,
can understand if you don't connect to it.
Yeah, I might put it. I said tier 2. I might put it up there.
It's in the top.
Yes.
After we've talked about it, I think I'm gonna bump it up.
It's up there. I think it
but
has
Ryan,
to.
we haven't even talked about that. You didn't like this movie before.
That's not true.
Weren't you more down on this movie?
I was a little bit down on it just because
you liked it, but it wasn't like.
So I did like a rewatch. Maybe it was like during the pandemic or something, and I kind of watched it. And I was like, why am I not connecting with this? Why is this like, I know this movie's good. Like, what am I, And so and a lot of movies during that time, it felt like early in the pandemic. Because I was trying to watch movies to get me to escape into other places.
What a great time that was.
Because
wonderful.
You're not going anywhere. So, fuck, you got to find it in movies or books or shows or something. And it just wasn't connecting with me. But I think as the years, and it was very, early in my marriage or whatever. But I think as you get married and you have more experience,
I think it definitely resonates with that.
You've gone through some experiences, definitely not the ones that like, my marriage is fine in comparison to the characters in these films. But you understand.
Whatever you say, man.
But you understand and empathize with people that don't have it nearly as good. I think.
I adore Marie Antoinette. I think it's a spectacular. One of the people that I know that's a really divisive film as well, but I adore it. But this one, I really, on a personal level, there's several things that I connect to, with a few flaws that it has, but there's more of a personal connection to me than many of her other films.
Yeah, and one thing is Scarlett Johansson exudes such a sense of maturity that it doesn't feel to me like her character is 24.
Well, I think that's a conduit for the creator as well.
She
Sofia
exudes
Coppola has
a
always
sense of experience that feels more like the 32-year-old Sofia Coppola in this movie to me.
Yeah.
And that desire to know what you want to do, to feel stuck in what is my future. I should be doing more things. My husband is all, working everywhere and in demand. And here I am taking pictures of feet. There's something that you feel, very, you can relate to that when you were that age, and then you can relate to what Bill Murray's going through. I think that's just the brilliance of her work.
Taking pictures of feet is a lucrative industry in 2024, to be clear.
I'm sure.
Yeah, no, for
TikTok's biggest.
Yeah. Well, there's there's people they just take pictures of their feet and they get 100.
That was another great line when
Tarantino's funding all of it.
He's
wonderful.
She says, "Do you want to see my foot?" And he looks at the sushi guy and he's just like, "Who could say no?"
Okay. Anything else? Last things you want to mention before we?
It's a great film. I'm putting it tier 1.
There you go.
Tier 1, baby.
Good.
Let's go.
How many tiers are there, Jay?
It's a good question with
in
Sofia
this Sofia Coppola cake,
because hers are
let them all eat it.
Just generally so good.
Yep.
Yeah,
I would say there's.
I think there's only one.
There's
movie.
One that I don't care for.
Yep, I agree. I rewatched.
Is that
it
like tier 3 then?
Yeah, so I would say there's probably
4?
3 tiers.
Yeah, there's 3 tiers. Yeah,
there's
only one
good,
movie,
and then there's the other one,
and then there's the one that sits alone by itself, and we don't need it. Well, we're going to talk about it, but we don't need to talk about it that much.
Yeah, Ryan just hates Marie Antoinette.
No, that's not true. It's not that one. Play Process of Elimination out there.
Well, for me, it's definitely tier 1 then.
Yeah. I think
you can make your own tiers. You are not confined.
Yeah, you don't have to
tiers.
go by the 3-tier cake system.
No,
I
not
guess
at
that
all.
we're doing.
Decorate the way.
There's many. William
And
Friedkin,
anyway.
who we just covered, has like
he's got
17 tiers.
Yeah, the dude's all
So-
over the place. Like
Yeah.
every movie feels like its own fucking tier at that point. Like it's wild. So, all right, Jay,
Yes, sir.
how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to be quizzed. Let's
Yeah?
do it. Let's do it.
Before we get out of here,
Mhm.
we're going to test your award season knowledge based on the film we just reviewed with Christina, Lost in Translation. In a segment we like to call "It's an Honor to Be Nominated."
Mhm.
Jay and Christina, you can help him too. But if you already know what I'm about to ask, then don't help him too much because we like to see Jay struggle a little bit. He is our resident top tier awards guy around here.
Oscar skeptic.
Yeah, but now he's turned a new leaf. He's turned a new leaf.
A little bit on past stuff.
A little bit. All right. Was Lost in
Thanks, Kevin
Translation?
Jacobson.
Thanks, Kevin. Was Lost in Translation nominated for any Academy Awards?
It definitely was. This has been her most celebrated film as far as awards are concerned. And I think I
That's
weirdly, for some reason, have a grasp on what this was nominated for.
Okay,
But we'll see if I can get all. It was nominated for Best Picture. I know
that is correct. I mentioned that earlier. I gave you that one.
Yep. It was nominated for Best Director.
That
I
is
know
correct. I think I've given you that one before.
I am almost certain it won original screenplay.
That is correct. You're doing good.
And I know Bill Murray was nominated for Best Actor and lost.
Correct. We'll talk about that in a minute.
So then the question becomes, was it nominated for anything below the line? Because I know Scarlett Johansson wasn't nominated.
Sadly, not.
Not enough
Correct.
costumes, not enough production design. I don't think it won cinematography or got nominated for cinematography, even though it should have. Editing, Ryan, I agree with you, but I just don't feel like it because this film is so stripped down in a lot of ways.
It's
that
stripped
I don't
down,
think
but
it would have
then,
gotten.
but then when you're paying attention to it, it is a
Well, yeah. Well, a
miraculously
lot of the time it's
edited movie.
most
Yeah.
editing, right?
Yeah, this is that
Most
subtle, beautiful
cinematography.
editing that she
Although
has
there's
in
a
this.
lot of cinematography in this.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah,
very
yeah.
striking images, but
Mm.
Mm.
wouldn't have gotten sound. Probably should have gotten sound for that
Ooh,
whispering sequence.
yeah.
But I'm going to say that's it.
You know what, Jay Ledbetter? You would be absolutely correct.
I got one.
That's it.
Let's go.
Yep, it was nominated for picture, director, actor, and original screenplay, and it won Sofia Coppola
She wants
Best
screenplay.
Original Screenplay. This, Jay, of course, was the year that Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King won, what was it, like 13 Oscars? Right? It was like, yeah, it won 11 Oscars. I'm sorry. Followed by Master and Commander winning 2 others, Mystic River winning 2 others, and then Lost in Translation won the screenplay.
Sean
for
Penn won over Bill Murray, right?
This is the big controversy. Is everybody? It's you got Sean Penn for Mystic River, and then and Bill Murray for Lost in Translation. There's Jude Law for Cold Mountain, Ben Kingsley for House of Sand and Fog, and then of course Johnny Depp for Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. So those were your 5 actor nominees. So would you guys keep it? Would you guys give it to Murray?
Yes,
You would. Okay.
I think so.
Wait, Ryan, can you say those again?
Okay. Sean Penn, Mystic River.
Oh, no, is that my daughter in there?
Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of Black Pearl.
Yep.
Ben Kingsley, House of Sand and Fog. Jude Law for Cold Mountain, and William Murray for Lost in Translation.
I'm gonna be honest. I would have given it to Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
It's an iconic performance.
it's really good. It's a really good performance.
I would give it to him for the performance, but Ryan would give it to him because he's just like a Johnny Depp guy.
No, now you're gonna start shit, and that's stop it.
No, I'm
No, he's-
giving it to William
He's
in this lineup.
Bill Murray didn't win because he's difficult, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's
he's
why he didn't win.
difficult, and he didn't really
He's also a
campaign.
comedian,
Yeah, he's a
I mean-
comedian.
Yeah.
I mean, Depp didn't win because he didn't really campaign either, even though he weirdly won that
Well, it's also
SAG
that's
award.
that's like a
That's like you're
light
just
entertainment movie.
I
They're
mean, it's
dismissing that.
the-
They weren't even going there in 2004 with the
Exactly.
light entertainment.
well, no, I mean, like honestly, it's the Ryan Gosling sort of argument for Barbie. It's like, well, yeah, it's really entertaining and it's people love the performance,
But
and
it's
in a big
fluff.
yeah, but that's the thing is no, well, I mean, it's elevated.
I'm not
fluff.
saying it is.
I think
I'm
it's a really
saying
good
that's what
performance.
the perception.
No,
is.
for sure. Like
Right.
that's why then like the next year he does like Finding Neverland and he's nominated, and that probably on paper had a better shot for him to win than
Right.
Pirates, even though clearly
It's,
he
actually,
won
it's
a SAG
honestly kind of a
award.
cool nomination.
It's kind of a really weird win that he won the SAG award over Bill Murray and Sean Penn, because it was clearly the two of them up to that point, and then Penn won the Oscar because I mean he has. I mean,
Ryan, it was his daughter in there.
Yeah, his daughter
You seem
was
to be
inside.
you seem to be forgetting that.
Yeah,
And Jay, can I just say Johnny Depp seems difficult too.
You think so?
Yeah.
But not in 2000. I don't think that was his perception in 2004.
Christina, I think Sean Penn's just as difficult as the
God,
three of
Sean
them.
Penn.
Like it is a trio
Penn
of
is
difficult
now
men. You know what I mean?
Busy saving the world with his different
Yeah, but
documentaries.
It is.
Yeah.
It is so cool that Sean Penn has fixed everything. I
Yeah.
do love
Fixed
that
every-
about him.
That should have been your Uber answer. Oh my God. Get Sean Penn out there.
I'm not sure what I would
fixing
change.
everything.
Yeah, I would just put Sean Penn in charge.
Just get him out there.
Yeah,
He's already fixed the Ukraine. He's already, he's
holy shit!
that's crazy.
What a
He fixed
great
South
comeback
America.
around on that. Oh, that's really good. Yeah, I'd probably give it to Bill Murray. Actually, I go back
I
and
would say
forth.
it's kind of a coin flip between Murray and Depp, but
Kingsley's really good though in
I'd-
House
I'd
of Sand and
go.
Fog. Have you ever seen him in
that
that?
house was
Mhm.
sandy and foggy.
Yeah, it was a little bit more foggy for my taste, but very sandy.
And that's an acting virtuoso there who can
Yeah.
be both sandy and foggy at the same
Yeah.
time.
yeah.
And he can
In
play
a
the
in a
Mandarin.
house, they don't do that
I mean-
nowadays. They don't
He
make
can
those
play
movies.
Gandhi and a Nazi.
Did you know that mountains were cold? Because cold
Wow.
Those
mountains
mountains were cold.
I learned
God, I-
that in 2004.
God, I hate that movie so much. I just don't like. That
I've never
movie.
seen that one.
Have you seen that movie, Christina? Cold Mountain?
Yes.
It's
Ooh.
not. I don't like it. I don't know.
Brr.
It's a bad
Really?
supporting actress win too. I'm not gonna.
We'll
was
do my same
Zellweger's
thing
first?
again. Meh.
Was that Zellweger that won for that?
That's
Oh,
Zellweger.
Zellweger.
She's
Oof.
got two really just awful
She has
wins.
two. She has two Oscars.
Yeah. Just
You know how
proving
many
the point.
Oscars
She's not
Stanley
good in
Kubrick
Cold
has?
Mountain.
No.
0. Renee Zellweger's got 2.
Yeah. Really.
What are we doing?
So does Billie Eilish.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
she
well,
does.
they do say Billie Eilish is the Kubrick of our time. To be
Right,
fair,
right.
so
I forgot that.
yeah. But would you have nominated? Would you have nominated Scarlett Johansson in supporting actress?
Oh, absolutely.
I think so.
I think I would have kicked out.
Offhand.
I would have kicked out Marcia Gay Harden for Mystic River.
All right, I'm
Just
looking
for
at-
that make your
look
own
at
lunch
supporting
scene that you were
actress.
mentioning, Ryan, where she suddenly changed. You can feel that she's a bit jealous. She's a bit, she's amazing in how the subtlety of her performance in
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
Oh,
question.
yeah,
I don't know this. Did Holly Hunter get nominated for 13?
she did. She did.
That movie stinks.
First you set it up and then
That movie is so bad.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Um,
I looking at the nominees, I'd probably give it to her.
you give her the win?
Or looking at the movies
the
of
nom.
the year, I'd give her the win.
Wow.
Who
Scarlett
won?
Johansson?
Oh yeah,
Well,
Renee
Zellweger. We just said that.
Zellweger. Yeah, we
Come on, Jay, wake up.
Just talked about this.
See,
I'm
he
sorry,
gets
I'm sorry,
he gets
I'm
the
sorry.
Oscar thing right, and then it falls
I
apart.
know, I'm falling apart.
Now the real question. I mean, obviously you keep the screenplay.
Oh, I forgot about Shia LaBeouf for Holes. I would probably give lead to him.
Okay.
He does those
Um,
holes.
Yeah. I mean, best original screenplay. Obviously, keep that with Sofia Coppola, based off the nominees. The Barbarian Invasions, Dirty Pretty Things, Finding Nemo, and In America. It's pretty. That's pretty locked for her. Would you guys unseat Peter Jackson and Lord of the Rings for picture and director? That's pretty.
Ryan, you know my feelings.
I know. Okay.
Lord of the
Christina, maybe
I
you-
don't.
Christina, can
Tell
you
us.
explain to Jay why Lord of the Rings is really great? Because he won't rewatch these movies, and I think he would really love them.
I'm not even there on their bad. They're just not like my thing. And I haven't rewatched them
that's
in
okay.
a very long
But when was the
time.
last time you watched them? Like 20 years ago?
15 years ago?
Yeah.
Long time ago.
And I tell you, Sophia, I think I've said this before on the show, but Sophia recently was in the same boat as you, and then she rewatched them on the big screen, and now she understands them. I mean, like, what
Sophia
are
is uninvited from the podcast.
And you, how old is your son?
Year and a half.
He's 18.
Okay,
He's 19 months.
He's not there yet.
Oh, right. Months.
He's 19 months.
Because I just watched them with my 8-year-old, and it was an amazing experience.
I need to rewatch. I mean, I truly need to. It's becoming almost a bit my refusal to rewatch them.
It really is.
You know, I gotta do it.
You know what I would almost give a Best Picture to?
I did watch the Terminator Salvation again.
Oh yes.
Instead of Lord of the Rings.
And you were very into Ghostbusters.
Frozen Empire, gave it a solid D- on AwardsWatch.com, a great website everyone should go to. And what else? I mean, I've rewatched so much garbage, and it's I'm not gonna.
Can I?
There is that moment every time you watch a movie that you go into, and you're sort of like, you know, I've never seen. You know, whatever movie. What movie have I not seen? What's an embarrassing movie I haven't seen?
Oh man, for a while it was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
It was. I finally watched that. I just watched Network, which was the one hanging over my head.
Yeah, what was the other one?
You haven't seen Network?
He hadn't seen
now.
Yeah, he had to. I know, right? It's like, how the hell have you not? The Verdict? You never seen The Verdict, right, Jay?
No, well, that's like, okay. Here's one. That's
a classic.
Never seen Ikiru, right? So it's like.
Well,
you know, I need to get to Ikiru, and instead I'm watching Ricochet, which, to be fair, is a freaking rad movie.
Yeah, Ricochet.
Okay, Under Siege 2. That's one I watched recently.
He's going on
Under Siege 2 instead of Ikiru.
He's going on he's going on some trash action movie watches, and I think that's healthy.
That's good.
I mean, you also watched like a crap ton of William Friedkin movies to balance that out. I mean,
I did. You know. Some of them were very bad.
Some of them are also masterpieces. So,
and there were some hidden gems in there.
And now you're doing Sofia Coppola, so I think
I mean that's lovely.
You're getting all the food groups.
Look at the rest of our series this year. You're going to eat pretty well on the Letterboxd.
I'm using that old like 5 pyramid thing where it was like eat as many calories as you can.
Now you're doing pyramids and tiers. Good Lord!
Wasn't the bottom piece of the pyramid on the old pyramid grains? Wasn't that what it was? Where it's like eat bread. Like bread is the number one thing you should.
But that was like the biggest one technically.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying, and then they changed it.
Yeah, well, because it's like, that's probably not the one you want to eat. Yeah, the vegetables and fruit should be not that it should be at the bottom, but it should be the biggest one because the biggest tier is at the bottom, right? And the top one should probably be like grains and breads and stuff like that because like you know that's
don't
the
eat
starch.
as many of them.
Yeah, don't eat the starch.
It used to be sugar.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Which, I know. Keep it up there in the little triangle, but don't have bread at the bottom.
No, we can't have bread's
that.
A source of life. You know what I mean? Like,
no
bread. You know who stole some bread and got sent to prison for it was Jean Valjean
and John McTiernan.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. You know, look down. You know, and everything. Speaking of Jean Valjean. You know a movie that I really loved from this year that was nominated for Best Picture, and it's kind of relevant in the news because of Peter Weir retiring.
Oppenheimer again, right?
No, it's Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. Like,
should we do favorite films of 2000?
No, I'm talking about. We're still talking about the movies of 2003. Yeah, 2004, 2003. Cool. Yeah. Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. I love that movie. That's a movie you.
Is that your fave of the year, Ryan?
No, that's not my favorite movie this year.
What's your fave of the year? Lord of the Rings?
No, that's number
Kill Bill
2. No.
Oh man, what is it?
Jay's gonna roll his eyes, but this is true. It's a movie I watch all the fucking time. It's Nancy Meyers' Something's Gotta Give.
I mean, it's a good movie.
That's a good one.
I love that movie. That's a movie where it's like we've got movie stars. We've got Jack Nicholson. We got Diane Keaton. Got Keanu. We got Frances McDormand playing the kooky friend.
That's your favorite movie of that year.
I've watched
that movie more than Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
I think mine's Kill Bill.
That movie is, one, that's only half of Kill Bill, to be fair. It's only volume 1. because the full volume wasn't released until the next year. So if you really want to get
Kill
technical
Bill
about
Volume 1 came out in that was the movie that came out in 2003. It was presented theatrically in the year
technically
2003.
it's one movie, so it's kind of lives in this weird space in between the 2 years.
I'm going to shove you in a locker.
But no, honestly, something's got to give as just this really fascinating kind of commentary and the way Nancy writes the Jack character in that movie and everything, and what it says about Keaton's career and Nicholson's career and their personas and stuff. It's besides it also being just like a movie we don't get anymore, and yeah, maybe one day we'll talk about Nancy Myers. Who knows? Maybe
you have to do Nancy Myers.
I think we'll have to do Nancy, but no, I think Nancy and Sofia Coppola are the two predominant female directors. Like they're like two of the maybe 3 or 4 predominant female directors of the last 25, 30 years. Jay, you're muted, by the way. If you yeah.
Sophia has to be number 1 artistically, right? Like,
I mean,
Nancy Myers is a very accomplished
from a
artist
a writer standpoint. I would say it's
as far as an auteurist,
like from an artistic standpoint.
I would say Sofia Coppola is the most important female filmmaker of the last 25 years.
You could say her, or maybe Bigelow, if you like
Bigelow.
If you like that kind of, if you like her sense of scale and scope.
Yeah,
which I do think that Catherine Bigelow is fantastic, and talk about somebody that needs to get the hell out of director jail and make a movie now, because it's really interesting.
Gerwig is moving up, I have to say.
Yeah, Greta's really up there
early in her career, but still super.
That's tier 1 as well.
Yeah, she would be up in the. Yeah, she'd be up there with the sugar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She's just been hitting homers.
She's been hitting homers. She's got 3 movies in a row that's been Best Picture and Oscar nominees all over the board. But yeah, I would say Coppola's up. Yeah, those would probably be the 4. It's Coppola, Coppola, Nancy, Bigelow, Gerwig, Chloe Zhao's up there. Cause she's won an Oscar. That's some that the others haven't. Yeah, those are some pretty elite names. So. But yeah, I love this movie.
Celine Sciamma. Hello.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. She doesn't make bad movies.
And can't wait to see where Celine's song is going.
Oh, yeah. Well,
did you say Jane Campion?
I didn't say Jane. Yeah, Jane would definitely be there.
Definitely, if you go back to
Visual
piano. Yeah.
Well, that's about like 30 years.
30 and change.
Yeah. I mean, God, Power of the Dog movie. I thought about that movie the other day. I was thinking about it. I was just thinking about the score, because I think the score got it readily available again on streaming, and I listened to it. Oh, such a good movie. Okay. Well, so would y'all give Best Picture to Lord of the Rings? Oh, no. You would give it a Lord of the Rings, Christina? Still?
I think I would, in terms of being such a huge epic.
Well, you can give it to whatever. It's your personal. Yeah. It's your personal. If you want to give it a Lost in Translation.
Out of those that we're talking about, the nominated ones.
Yeah, because it's Mystic River and Seabiscuit and Master and Commander, Lost in Translation.
Seabiscuit. I talk about Seabiscuit all the time.
God, Seabiscuit. No, I didn't.
And Jay, would you give it a Lost in Translation?
Give me the nominees again.
Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Lost in Translation, Master and Commander, Far Side of the World, Mystic River, and Seabiscuit.
I'm going Lost in Translation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going Lord of the Rings. But maybe I give...
You're getting shoved in a locker again.
Well, I wouldn't give Peter Jackson director, though.
No, me neither.
He's the wrong Peter one. I give it to Peter Weir.
You give it to Weir?
I'll give it to Weir. Yeah.
Master
Commander rules. I'm sorry. Yeah. We were a proper country. Used to make movies with boats. And we used to blow them up like pirates.
This was a big year for boats between Pirates
Return of the King.
Boats,
yeah. That's a movie you should show your son, Christina. It's Master Commander. I think he would love it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that to me.
Well, I mean,
my 1-year-old Master Commander.
Well, yes, you should. Everybody should watch.
Getting his brain scooped out with a spoon.
Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah, when they do the surgery and Paul Bettany's the surgeon. Oh.
Yeah,
Russell Crowe.
Eight's a little early for.
Yeah, it's a little early.
I watched it when I was like this age, so like, what
that's
was
why
that?
you're
I was
like this.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what,
You
10?
were like 12.
I was like 10, yeah. It was '03, so yeah, I was like 10 or 11 when it came out. So yeah. You can, it depends on I guess it depends on the 8-year-old.
Different
You know what I
strokes
mean?
for different folks.
I know Christina and I know her family. That he could handle it. If he can watch Lord of the
I think he
Rings,
could.
I think he can handle it. I think he can handle it. So, Christina, thank you so much for coming on
Thank you for
here.
having me. It was
And
really fun. Thank you.
We loved having you on. Can you tell everybody in the world where they can find you and all your work?
Yes, you can follow Pop Culture Confidential, which is my podcast. And if you want to listen to the Sofia Coppola interview, it's there. You'll find it wherever you find your podcast. And follow me on Twitter. It's Christina Birro, Birro. The same on Instagram. That's where you can catch my stuff.
Y'all better go find her and listen to all of her work. She's incredible. 5-star reviews all around. Spotify and
And
iTunes.
Ryan's there a lot. And Jay, maybe you want to come on. Love to
Oh
have
yeah,
you.
absolutely. This was
Christina,
you
you should
guest,
do
Christina. Five
thank
stars.
you.
Absolutely. This was
like
lovely.
I can feel in y'all's future an episode on trash action movies of the 1980s
Oh, that'd
and
be
90s.
fun.
Yeah, I feel like I'm setting up now
Steven
her programming.
Seagal retrospective.
Yeah. Like the best, sloppy movies to watch on streaming
Just
platforms.
absolute garbage.
Just the underrated
Delicious
movies.
garbage.
Yeah, that.
How we can move from that garbage to these personal stories that we all told, I don't know.
Yeah, we went deep.
This is the wonderful.
It was like I was in my Uber all over again.
It's the wonderful bouquet that is Director Watch here. Jay, tell everybody where they can find you, buddy.
Yeah, you can find me at Letterboxd. Just
Mm-hmm.
search J Ledbetter. You can find me on Twitter. Just search at Mr. J Ledbetter on there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it, I guess. Movie recommendation.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. What have I been watching recently?
Christina, do you have we usually, when we wrap this up, Jay gives and I give a movie recommendation for all of our listeners this week. Do you have a movie that you'd recommend everybody go see outside of Lost in Translation?
Something new that I've
It
seen?
could be anything that you've watched recently or
Okay,
or
you
that
guys
you
can
loved.
start. Let me think a minute
All
to
right.
see.
I have.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, go.
Jay,
You.
I mean,
all right, I'll go first.
yeah,
I
you go
rewatched Book
for it.
Club. Absolute banger. Everybody, proud member of the book club. All right, my favorite book club members ranked. I'm going. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. I can't believe I wasn't prepared, even though I asked the question to myself. I'm going. Steenbergen, Bergen, Keaton, Fonda. Is my power ranking of the book club.
Is that from worst to best?
That was first to worst.
Oh,
Fonda,
so you're putting Fonda at the bottom.
Amazing in book club. That is not necessarily a value judgment on their careers overall, but in book club specifically, Steenbergen absolutely driving the ship.
Well, like Candice Bergen and also too.
Candice Bergen absolutely rocking the house.
And then Keaton's the stability.
Keaton's
and then,
great. Her outfits are bizarre. But that's how she is.
Yeah.
And then Jane Fonda is just doing her thing.
She's got a wig. She's wearing that wig. You know what I mean?
She sure is wearing that wig.
She sure is. Christine, do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, can I do two?
You can do two.
Recommend Monkey Man when it comes out, Dev Patel's directorial debut, which I was really impressed with, a real action thriller with a social conscience, but be prepared for some extreme violence and gore. But it's going to be really interesting to follow him as a director going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just did a rewatch on Michael Clayton, and oh my God,
wow.
so great.
You're speaking Ryan's language.
Oh man,
that's
did it make you want a baguette really bad?
Yes, several.
No shit. Like you want to like buy the damn bakery afterwards?
And not to ever become a lawyer, that's for sure.
I'm Shiva, the god of death. Oh my God. God, so good.
That scene is just an absolute.
You don't want the money? Tilda Swinton.
The whole first monologue or the whole first narration that is amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's
Tony G.
So good. Such a wonderful movie. You can find all my work on Letterboxd, Instagram, and Twitter at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find more of these podcasts that you love, just like the main show, as well as all episodes of Director Watch over at awardswatch.com.
I wrote a scathing review of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, you
should go
did.
read that.
You should go read that. Yeah. Or I have my coverage, including a review of Monkey Man from South by Southwest, where I really enjoyed that movie, and I can't wait for everybody to see action star and really good director Dev Patel in his solid debut. And iTunes, Spotify, 5 stars. Go on the website, and you can sign up for the newsletter. Eric, love you to sign up for that. We release that every week, and that's the best way to get all of our reviews, interviews, and podcasts and everything in between, all under one roof, sent to you twice a week. My movie recommendation of the week. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Christina mentioned a George Clooney movie. So it's only right that I talk about the George Clooney movie that I watched this past week.
Monuments Men.
You're not far off. So it was a movie that George Clooney directed. It's his best movie that he's ever directed, and he will never probably, sadly, ever go back to this level. But I watched, for the first time in many years, I watched Good Night and Good Luck. Mm-hmm. And I loved that movie, and I still love that movie. It is incredible. I mean, it's a stacked lineup. You got Patricia Clarkson, you got Clooney himself, Jeff Daniels, Robert Downey Jr., Frank Langella, Robert Wise, all the, Tate Donovan, Tom McCarthy, all these great character actors. But then it's all led by this just powerful, amazing performance from David Strathairn as Edward R. Murrow. And it's only 90 minutes, so it's really gets in and out.
Kind of like a book club type length.
Kind of a book club type length.
Exactly. The best comparison.
Exactly. You watch Good Night and Good Luck and then watch book club.
Yeah.
But I miss this kind of Clooney, because I think this and like Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, throw out Leatherheads, but then Ides of March, like he was really, I think, making some interesting films, and now he's just making trash.
What happened?
And I don't know what happened.
Those boys were in that boat, though.
They were in the boat. You know what I mean? What was the movie that was on?
To be a dad.
What was the one that was on Netflix? The one that it was like the sci-fi one, or it was like the one where he's in the Arctic,
the one where he's an astronaut.
Yeah, or whatever that thing was.
My God, what is that movie called?
You know what I'm talking about?
I want to just call it like Interstellar, but it's obviously not Interstellar.
No. Oh, the Midnight Sky.
Midnight Sky.
Oh God, that was terrible.
What about the Tendaba?
I was just gonna say the Tendaba. Yeah, where it's like it looks like an average show from Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Affleck really leaning in that accent, though.
Suburbicon, just an absolute. I mean, Jay, you used to on our old show over at In Session Film, when we do the awards show at the end of the year, you give out the Robert Zemeckis
Please Retire Award,
and
which
you
he
gave
won,
it to
I think,
Clooney
multiple times. Maybe I know I gave it to him once.
You gave it to him.
That was the year of the Tendaba.
Yeah, and Midnight Sky. Yeah.
And I don't know. I still haven't seen The Boys in the Boat. I've actually heard some people are like, it's the best movie he's made in years.
Christina, did you see The Boys in the Boat?
Yeah, there's not.
All right. Yeah. But anyway, Good Night and Good Luck. Fantastic film. Even has some, and Christina's going to roll her eyes, it does have a couple of mentions of Oppenheimer, and does have Robert Downey Jr. in it.
I knew you had to.
There is because like in Oppenheimer, there is a moment when like Strauss is talking about like Oppenheimer getting like politically in the consciousness, and there's that shot of Kitty and the kids, and they have a television crew in their house, and it's for an interview with Edward R. Murrow, because he used to interview celebrities, and that was what really paid the bills. Like he would go into like, there's a sequence where he's talking to Liberace about like, finding the one in Good Night and Good Luck. And you can clearly tell like Murrow knows like this is bullshit and they tell him like, cheer up, Ed, don't worry. Next week we got Oppenheimer. And it was just an interesting connection of the two films, and Downey, both in black and white as well too, shot impeccably well. So yeah, it was just like a really like, didn't never think of that, but both very like kind of vital films speaking about the era of communism and but obviously a little bit more vital.
Like the Tendaba.
Kind of like the Tendaba, you know what I mean? So
Tendaba,
but
a real
a real
Old war movie.
Real got the the pulse of the zeitgeist, the tender.
Yeah.
Next week we will be back, and we will be talking about Marie Antoinette, and we will be having our great friend and collaborator Sophia Simonello will be joining us for that episode.
She's not allowed back.
Best.
She's not allowed back. That's right. Well,
right. She likes Lord of the Rings now.
Yeah, she's like Lord of the Rings. So I guess I guess we're gonna have to find out.
All right, I'll give her one more chance.
One more chance. Okay. Well, we'll have to hear her thoughts on Marie Antoinette, and maybe she'll get out of Jay's penalty box. But thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you all next time.